Introduction. If I told you that 90% of what men believe about creating intimacy with women is completely wrong, would you believe me? For decades, society has planted misleading ideas about sex and closeness in our minds. Men are taught that being strong, fast, and focusing on obvious sensitive areas is enough to satisfy a woman. But as a urologist, I have to say this clearly. That belief is deeply flawed. My name is Dr. Emily Carter, an American urologist, 45 years old. For more than 20 years, I have specialized in urinary health, neuroscience, and sexual medicine. I have treated thousands of patients, counseled hundreds of couples, and participated in scientific research on the connection between the brain, hormones, pleasure, and emotions. And if there is one thing I have learned with absolute certainty, it is this. Sex does not begin in the body. It begins in the brain. True intimacy is not about technique or stamina. It is about activating your partner's emotional nervous system. Unfortunately, most men are touching the wrong places. They overlook areas on a woman's body that contain powerful nerve clusters, biological switches that unlock deep emotional bonding. They walk past zones that neuroscience has proven can trigger oxytocin, the hormone of trust and connection. And this is not personal opinion. What I am sharing today is supported by medical research from respected journals such as Journal of Neuroscience, Clinical Neurophysiology, and European Journal of Neuroscience. These studies show that the female body contains special areas rich in emotional sensory nerve fibers that transmit signals directly to the brain's reward center. When touched correctly, these areas do more than create physical pleasure. They awaken safety, trust, and a desire for lasting connection. This is the foundation of a fulfilling and sustainable sex life. Today, I will help you rethink everything you believe about intimacy. I will show you what you misunderstood, why you misunderstood it, and most importantly, what science truly says about emotional and sexual connection in women. The problem: over my 20-year career, I have noticed a painful truth. Most men are touching the wrong places. Not because they are careless, but because they were taught incorrectly from the beginning. Movies, social media, and pop culture send a dangerous message. Focus on a few hot spots and pleasure will come. But neuroscience tells us something very different. Pleasure is not the same as connection. This confusion has damaged countless relationships. When men only focus on familiar areas, they miss crucial nerve clusters scattered across a woman's body. These nerves send signals directly to the limbic system, the emotional center of the brain. They are not designed to respond to rushing or force. They open only to slow, intentional, caring touch. As a result, many women feel used instead of connected. They may experience physical pleasure, but their brains do not register emotional bonding. Oxytocin is not released strongly enough. There is no deep sense of safety, no lasting trust. And when the brain does not link intimacy with positive emotion, desire slowly fades. So many men come to my clinic asking, "Why doesn't my wife want intimacy anymore?" They blame age, hormones, health. But when we look deeper, the answer is simple. She no longer feels emotionally connected. Sex is not just physical action. It is a conversation between nervous systems. If you don't speak the brain's language, technique becomes meaningless. That is why relationships grow cold even when love still exists. And here is the truth. When men touch the wrong places, they don't just miss pleasure. They miss the chance to build deep connection. They miss the biological switches that open trust, safety, and long-term desire. If nothing changes, emotional distance grows, until neither partner feels truly chosen anymore. 5 key touch points. Before we talk about these 5 areas, you must understand this. A woman's body does not respond simply because you touch the right spot. It responds when her nervous system feels safe, when her brain senses genuine care, and when the rhythm respects her boundaries. That's why some people touch correctly but still fail to connect. They ignore the foundation: consent, presence, and emotional signals. All 5 areas share something in common. They are rich in sensory receptors and linked to neural pathways to the brain. They are associated more with trust than raw pleasure. When approached with the right intention, they release bonding chemicals like oxytocin and calm the stress system. E. The nape of the neck. Neurologically rich and psychologically vulnerable. Allowing access here tells the brain, "I am safe." 2. behind the ear, linked to the vagus nerve, which regulates relaxation. Soft approach reduces alertness and increases closeness. Gentle voice can deepen connection if welcomed. 3. Lower back, sacrum, connected to pelvic nerves and relaxation responses. This area stores tension. When respected, the body shifts from defense to trust. Fira, inner wrist, arm, rarely touched, socially safe, builds connection without pressure. 5. Lower abdomen and navel, highly sensitive and deeply personal, meaning lies in trust and boundaries. Timing and consent matter more than technique. Conclusion: sustainable intimacy is built on emotional safety, not skill. Scientific explanation: to understand why these subtle points of touch are so powerful, we need to look at the emotional nervous system. In the human body, there exists a special group of nerve fibers called C-tactile afferents. These are not nerves that respond to pain, strong pressure, or temperature. They are specifically designed to recognize gentle, slow, and caring touch. When activated, they send signals directly to brain areas related to emotion, especially the limbic system, the center for bonding and emotional memory. This means not every touch is registered by the brain as intimacy. Only touch that carries genuine care, safety, and presence activates the emotional nervous system. When these nerve fibers are stimulated, the brain begins to release oxytocin, the bonding hormone. Oxytocin is often called the love hormone, but more accurately, it is the hormone of trust and safety. When oxytocin increases, the body relaxes, heart rate becomes more stable, and defensive responses decrease. The brain starts storing that experience as a positive memory. I feel safe with this person. This is how the bonding system is formed, not through promises, but through biological imprints in the brain. Each time intimacy happens in a state of safety, the nervous system strengthens these emotional pathways. Over time, simply being in that person's presence can trigger feelings of closeness. This is the foundation of long-term attachment in relationships. Now, let's talk about the advantage of age. Society often makes us believe that sexuality belongs only to youth, but neuroscience shows the opposite. As we mature, the brain develops a better ability to regulate emotions. We become more patient, less impulsive, and more capable of deep presence in the moment. This is exactly what the emotional nervous system needs most: slowness and attention. Age gives you the ability to read subtle signals, listen more deeply, and understand that intimacy is not about performance, but about synchronization and emotional attunement. Women are not looking for youthful stamina. They are looking for a man who can stay present, feel with them, and adjust to their emotional state. And that is the biological advantage of maturity. In other words, age does not take away attraction, it transforms it. From intensity to depth, from performance to connection. And when you understand this, you stop fearing time and start using it to build a sustainable, emotionally rich, and meaningful, intimate life. Practical application. Once you understand the scientific foundation behind these touch points, the next important step is how to apply this knowledge in real life. Many people make the mistake of thinking that simply memorizing all 5 sensitive areas will instantly activate connection. But intimacy is not a memory test. It is a subtle communication process between 2 nervous systems. That is why the first principle you must remember is: do not try to use all of them at once. When you touch multiple areas in a short period of time, your partner's brain can become overwhelmed with sensory input. Instead of feeling cared for, they may feel like they are being experimented on. Neuroscience calls this overstimulation, excessive stimulation, that prevents the nervous system from properly processing emotions. Deep intimacy does not come from intensity. It comes from rhythm. Slow down. Choose one point. Stay there long enough for the brain to register a positive sensation. That is how connection is built. The second principle is context. Every intimate moment has its own emotional background. Sometimes it is gentle closeness in daily life. Sometimes it is a private space filled with trust. You cannot use the same approach in every situation. For example, subtle touch on the wrist or inner arm fits everyday settings when you are talking, sitting next to each other, or sharing a peaceful moment. Meanwhile, more private areas should only appear when both of you truly feel comfortable and have given consent. Context is the language of respect, and here is the most important principle. Observe your partner's reactions. The body always tells the truth, even before words appear. Changes in breathing, posture, eye contact, leaning toward you, or pulling away. All of these are signals from the nervous system. When she relaxes, her shoulders drop, and her breathing becomes slower and deeper, that means her body is opening. On the other hand, if there is stiffness, avoidance, or unusual silence, that is a message for you to pause or adjust. True intimacy begins with listening, not acting. In medicine, we call this emotional attunement, the ability to emotionally tune in with another person. When you are fully present, not rushed, not imposing expectations, your partner's brain records you as a safe place. And when safety is activated, the body naturally opens in its own way. No forcing, no formulas. Finally, remember this. Applying this knowledge is not about control or manipulation. It is about connection. When your intention is to create comfort, to understand, and to value the other person, every touch becomes an emotional dialogue. This is the foundation of a sustainable sex life, where two people do not just touch each other's bodies, but reach the deepest emotions inside. A final message. When we talk about intimacy, the most important thing is not technique, not the place you touch, and not even the perfect timing. True intimacy begins with presence. Presence means being fully there in the moment, not distracted, not rushed, not carrying expectations to get it done. It is when you truly see the other person, listen to their breathing, feel their body's responses, and allow yourself to connect on a deeper level. In neuroscience, we call this state emotional synchrony, when two nervous systems begin to communicate with each other. In this state, the body is no longer in defense mode. The brain lowers its guard, releases bonding hormones like oxytocin, and creates a sense of safety. And it is this safety that becomes the foundation of every sustainable, intimate experience. Without it, even the most delicate actions remain only surface level. You need to remember that every touch is a form of communication. The body speaks its own language through skin temperature, pressure, rhythm, and pauses. When you touch with attention and respect, you are sending a very clear message. I am here with you. I care about how you feel. But when touch is rushed or forced, the unconscious message becomes, I am only seeking what I want. The other person's brain senses this difference very quickly, even before they consciously realize it. Deep intimacy is not a single moment. It is a process of accumulation. Each time you listen, each time you respect her boundaries, each time you adjust to her responses, you are adding another layer of trust. And that trust creates long-term bonding, not through promises, but through real experiences. The brain remembers, with this person, I am safe. At its deepest level, sex is not just physical pleasure. It is an emotional experience, where two people allow themselves to be vulnerable, open, and truly connect. When you understand this, you stop searching for success formulas and start learning how to be present, observe, and attune. That is when every touch becomes a silent conversation. Every close moment becomes an emotional anchor, and the relationship slowly shifts from habit to conscious connection. Finally, remember this. What women remember is not what you do, but how you make them feel. When that feeling is safety, appreciation, and understanding, desire no longer needs to be forced. It appears naturally, grows, and lasts over time. That is the true power of intimacy. Not loud, not flashy, but deep and lasting. Call to action. If what you have just heard today makes you rethink the way you approach intimacy, remember this. These are not just my personal opinions. This content has been gathered and cross-referenced from many respected scientific studies around the world, including Journal of Neuroscience, Clinical Neurophysiology, and European Journal of Neuroscience, where researchers have demonstrated the role of the nervous system, oxytocin, and emotional presence in building long-term bonding. In other words, deep connection is not emotional guesswork, it is science. If you found this video valuable, please hit like to help the algorithm share this information with more people who may be struggling in their relationships right now. Leave a comment below. What surprised you the most? Where did you realize you had misunderstood things before? I read every single comment, and your story might help someone else change their emotional life. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Every week, I share new content based on medicine, neuroscience, and sexual psychology. Not quick tips, but science-backed knowledge to help you build confidence and lasting connection in your relationships. If you think this video could help a friend or a loved one, share it with them. One small action from you could help someone rediscover the true value of intimacy, not technique, but presence and understanding. And if you want to go even deeper, watch the next video. There, I will analyze advanced brain and emotional mechanisms to help you better understand how to maintain desire and long-term bonding over time. I'm Dr. Emily Carter. Thank you for staying until the end. Remember, real connection is what makes intimacy unforgettable.